What's up, guys? This is the Gospel According to Mark with a C. He is I and I am he. Just taking some time to tell you exactly what's on my mind. You know, guys, I've been in kind of a reflective mode, the last few days. I was able to take a look at the first 10 minutes of Terminator Dark Fate last week. And I say the first 10 minutes because I didn't get past the first 10 minutes. It's like the first 10 minutes of that movie is all I needed to see. All right. Once I saw, spoiler alert, once I saw the way they dispatched of John Connor, the way that they did, I was just like, okay, fuck this, I'm out. Obviously, for anybody who actually follows plot, having John Connor taken out that way completely just trashes T1 and T2. Like, there's just no point. As a matter of fact, I feel stupid for having invested time in watching these things. Now, I'm one of those people who probably agree that the Terminator franchise shouldn't have been a franchise. Like, to me, I stopped watching after T2. I mean, everything else just seemed like it was so contrived. It was just so unnecessary, so out of the way, just to keep a story going and to make more money. To me, T2 was probably the perfect ending. There was just nothing more that I saw being necessary to the story, so that was pretty much it for me. But see, the thing about it is, in watching T2, it was really, it was a roller coaster ride. It's like you have a great time watching it. It was fun, it was funny, it was suspenseful, and it was touching, so the way that it ended, to me, I could have rocked with that for the rest of eternity, at least for the rest of my life, knowing that the story ended that way. Whatever came after that, I just wasn't there, man. It's like I just didn't want to, like I said, to me it was just like a bunch of unnecessary shit. It's like I never protested it, but I just felt like, what's the point? So I never watched it. But to see this story open up the way that it did, Terminator Dark Fate, and to know that it literally is supposed to pick up after the events of T2, it's like, who in their right mind would have ever thought that that was a good idea? It's like, this is not what you go to movies for, in case people forgot. It's like, you don't go to movies. You know what it's like to me? I liken it to somebody doing a so-called sequel to The Wizard of Oz, right? And it turns out that the Wicked Witch is not dead. The Wicked Witch is still alive. And, the last time we saw Dorothy in that classic movie, Judy Garland, she's like clicking her heels. She's saying, there's no place like home. There's no place like home, right? And then now we do a sequel, all right? Now Judy Garland is gone now, but you get another girl who's playing Dorothy, right? And she's lying in the bed, right? She hasn't even gotten up out of the bed yet. And the evil teacher comes in and stabs her in the chest, right? Now Dorothy's dead, all right? She didn't even get any like lines, right? She's still lying in bed. She opens up her eyes, ready to face another day, and then, oh, she's gone, okay? And it's come to find out, like I said, the witch is still alive. And the story is now going to be told from the perspective of Dorothy's cousin, who has come to town. Let's just say his name is, I don't know, Donald or something, And now the story is going to be about him. And since Dorothy couldn't take care of the Wicked Witch, now Donald is going to do it. He's going to do it because it wasn't done properly. It wasn't done right the first time. It's like, now how would you feel following up a classic movie, a classic feel-good movie that ended perfectly, and somebody, just for the sake of reinvigorating the franchise, the so-called franchise, decide to off your classic legendary character in such a disrespectful way? It's like, how would that go over? That's about how well it went over when I saw what they did with John Connor. It just made no sense. It's like, if John Connor hadn't sent Reese back to protect Sarah Connor, nothing would have happened after that. You know what I mean? It's like, if John Connor dies as a child, what does that say about the whole story? You know what I mean? But here we are, all right? And once again, we're forced to accept this as canon. And if we don't accept it as canon, of course, we're just some, spoiled, entitled, fanboy, baby, misogynist bastards who need to be shot out back somewhere. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. But, you just have to see the parallels, right? Through everything that we're facing these days. You know, whether it's Star Trek in the way they totally fucked up Mr. Spock, you know, and this is supposed to be canon once again. Like, this is supposed to be the story now, you know? You got Michael Burnham, or Mikey Spock, as Doomcock calls her. Hail, Lord Doomcock. You know, and all of the critics out there, it's like, Discovery. It's called Discovery. I only watched it for the first season. What the fuck did they discover? Did they discover anything? And isn't that the main core of Star Trek? You know, to seek out and explore strange new worlds, right? When did they do this? They never did this. It's all about conflict. So they changed that narrative, you know, and they changed classic legendary, you know, characters, you know, Mr. Spock, you know, being one of my favorite characters ever, anywhere of all time. And, you know, of course, Captain Pike, and, you know, who knows what they're going to do by the time they're finished. And God knows what they're going to do with Picard, you know. So you got that, you know. Then, of course, you have what they did with Game of Thrones. You have what we've been talking about with Star Wars, you know, all this time. And it just seems like that line, man, that line, forget the past, kill it if you have to. It just runs underneath everything that is in our culture and in our tradition these days. It's almost like someone has decided somewhere that the generations are going to draw a line right here. Like, it's going to change right here. It's like everything that came before is going to be completely discarded. And we are going to start anew the legend in our own image going forward. Those who have bought these properties and they're in charge and stuff. So everyone who still remembers the old, everyone who still remembers the tradition and the culture of what came before that should be inspiring the new, we're considered obsolete, just like everything else. You know, all the legacy characters, we're legacy characters, we're legacy fans, you know, and we're being told that our services will be no longer required. These are the new rules, these are the new characters. It doesn't matter if we're ripping off the old characters, because going forward, the new generations don't know about the old characters. And that's why you can have, you know, somebody like Anthony Daniels be disrespected. That's how you can have Tim Rose and Tom Kane and Mark Hamill and George Lucas, you know, be disrespected the way that they're being disrespected, you know, because these so-called new fans, you know, these disrespectful new so-called fans don't have any use for what came before. They're forgetting the past, and they will kill it if they have to. They will kill these people's spirits. They'll kill their contributions. They'll kill their memories. They don't care, you know? And they're not going to care unless we introduce our children, you know, we introduce future generations. Through us, we introduce them to the legacy, to the legends, you know, so we can give them the proper perspective. You know, just the other day I was talking to this young lady on my job, right? Bad, man. Oh my God, beautiful. You know, actually it wasn't just the other day, it was a while ago. And you know, I think a song came on the radio, and it was Prince, you know. So it's like, you know, we're rocking out to some Prince, you know, where I work and everything, you know. What song was it anyway? It was I would die for you. Die for it if you want me to, you. Woo, I would, you know. So anyway, she didn't know who Prince was, as it turns out. Okay? She didn't know who Prince was, man! Like, how is this possible? You know? And I had a situation like that before where somebody didn't know who Stevie Wonder was. And I'm like, yo! How, and you know what? They're proud of it. You know, they're proud of not knowing, just like these new crop of fans. They're proud of not knowing what OT Star Wars is, you know, because to them, it's irrelevant. It's obsolete. They don't care. Luke Skywalker's just some old man. They don't know that he was actually playing this role when he was probably younger than a lot of them. You know, they don't look back on that. And I'm like, when did this happen? You know what I'm saying? It's because I know for me, you know, when I was growing up, I listened to a lot of things that my parents listened to, you know. It's like I didn't listen to a whole lot of the Beatles, you know, but I know that the Beatles are fucking legendary. I know John, Paul, Ringo, and George, you know what I'm saying? So my thing is, where does the disregard for history, you know, where does that begin and where does it stop? And I see the ripple effect throughout all of our culture. This is the reason why they want to tear down statues that represent something that they never believed in politically. You know, they want to tear down statues in this country, in America, of, you know, Confederate so-called heroes, you know. And my thing is, there is this saying that goes, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. History is there for a reason. It's not there to celebrate. It's there to learn from, you know? So it's like you can't just forget the past and kill it if you have to. You have to study the past, you have to recognize the past, and you have to reconcile with the past, especially if you're talking about a government or a country, you know? And if you're talking about film, it's important to put everything in context so you appreciate the progression in the history of film. Like when I watch Bugs Bunny, you know, Bugs Bunny is funny as shit to me. All right. Now, I know that Bugs Bunny would sometimes dress in blackface, or sometimes he would cross dress, and Bugs Bunny was probably the most politically incorrect cartoon ever. But to me, I can watch that classic old Bugs Bunny from the 30s and the 40s, and I swear there is nothing funnier to me ever, anywhere. I will fall out laughing, and I'm not a laugher, you know, but I will fall out laughing at some classic Bugs Bunny, you know. Or even another example is All in the Family. You know, a lot of people, All in the Family is one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. You know, sometimes when I bring that up to people, they're like, what? That show was racist. I'm like, no, the show wasn't racist. The show was about a guy who was bigoted, okay? And I believe that Carol O'Connor was one of the bravest actors ever to play such a character, because he played him honestly. And when it came down to it, Archie was just ignorant. You know, it wasn't like he was really a racist. You never saw Archie out there lynching anybody or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I think they had an episode where he was faced with the Klan, and you know, he had to confront his own bigotry on several occasions. Excuse me. So that's my point, guys. It's like the past is fascinating. You know, the past is compelling. You know, it's something to learn from. You know, but when I see what's going on in Hollywood, I can't help but think, are we training our kids? I mean, and we've always had youth culture in America, you know, it's always been driven by youth culture, but are we training our kids to completely disregard the elderly, you know, to disregard the elders and the wisdom of the elders, and just to totally be subject to whatever it is that the state has determined is going to be passed to them as entertainment, meanwhile controlling their sensibilities and stuff, where they don't want to listen to what came before, meaning us. And like I said, I really do feel like that's a danger here if we don't check it. You know, the same way they throw away what came before, they can throw us away too. We could throw our elders away. You know, those of us who are out here now. We have to fight this way of thinking, guys. And you know, that's my point. The only way I think to combat that is by introducing our children to our culture, to our traditions, to our values, to our morals. I know these are bad words these days, but I believe that, you know what I mean? So we introduce them to our music, you know, to our beliefs, you know, as we each practice them in our homes, and our stories and our fables and our myths, you know, and all of that good stuff. You know, of course, Star Wars would be part of that as well. You know I introduced my son very early. I talked about that before, where he rejects Disney Star Wars because to him it's not honest. And I respect him so much for that, you know, at his young age, to make that decision, to not be caught up in all the special effects and, you know, explosions and stuff like that. So, yeah, guys, I really do feel like it's very important. You know, if we're going to combat this whole forget the past, kill it if you have to bullshit mentality that seems to be running underneath everything these days, we have to, you know, take control of what our children are exposed to, you know, and let them know where we stand morally and spiritually and all that good stuff. So anyway, guys, what do you think about that? You know, do you think that this is something that is just an indication of where we're going as a society? Are we just making this big switch over now to the way that we think in terms of how we hold, you know, things dear and everything? And let me know. Get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about this. Of course, I'll be interested to see how you feel. And you can like, you can share, you can subscribe. And when you subscribe, please hit the notification bell and click all. It's very important that you do that with me and all your other favorite content creators. It is very important. And as always, you can catch me on Twitter. I will be there. All right, guys, that's it for now. I'm up out of here, and I'll catch you on the next one. This is The Gospel According to Mark with a C. Rock on.